to Deep Sleep Stories. Thank you to everyone who's been listening. If these stories help you relax or fall asleep, a short review, comment, or sharing the podcast with someone who might benefit is a simple and meaningful way to support the show so that we may continue to offer it for free. Now, take a slow, gentle breath and let's begin tonight's story.
Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories, a quiet little place where you can rest as you listen to a tale about a sleepy farmer and the orchard that dreams beneath the stars. For now, there is nothing you need to do and nowhere you need to go. You can simply be here. Let your body settle and let the day soften around the edges. If you like, you can close your eyes or let them drift gently half shut as you listen. Notice the weight of your body wherever it is resting. The surface beneath you is holding you up, steady and kind, so you do not have to hold yourself. Take a slow breath in through your nose if that is comfortable, letting the air fill your chest and belly. Then let it drift out in an easy sigh, as if you are exhaling the long day behind you. With each breath out, you can imagine tension slowly melting away from your shoulders, your jaw, your hands. There is nothing to carry now. The story will carry you. In a moment, you will wander in your imagination to a quiet valley where a small orchard lies, cradled between gentle hills. There, a sleepy farmer tends rows of apple and pear trees, listening to the wind and the birds, the soft rustle of leaves, and the secret music of ripening fruit. You will walk softly among those trees, feel the hush of evening settling, and follow the farmer through a night of peaceful tending and unhurried dreams. Allow the picture of that valley to begin forming in your mind. You might see it clearly or only feel a hazy sense of it, and either way is just right. Let the thoughts of your day drift farther away, like clouds moving behind distant hills. Your breath continues in its slow, easy rhythm, and your body grows heavier, more relaxed, more ready to wander into the orchard and rest there for a while. Far away from busy roads and bright city lights, there was a valley that seemed to belong more to the sky than to the world of noise and hurry. On every side, low blue hills rose like the edges of a great bowl, cupping a patchwork of fields and forests, streams and meadows. At the heart of the valley lay a modest farm, simple and quiet, and behind that farm stretched a small, beloved orchard. The farmer who lived there was named Ellen. She was not young and not old, but somewhere in the comfortable, in between. Her hands were strong and a little rough, and her eyes were gentle like the mossy green of the hillside after rain. For as long as anyone nearby could remember, Ellen had tended the orchard with the slow patience of someone who understands that all real ripening happens in its own time. The orchard itself was not grand, not the kind that would appear in stories of kings or great feasts. It was only a few neat rows of apple trees, their branches knotted and familiar, and a scattering of tall, graceful pears. Between them grew soft grasses and wildflowers, tiny white petals like stars, shy violets, and low clover that hummed with bees on warm days. A narrow path, worn by the farmer's steady footsteps, wound between the trunks and disappeared over a small rise at the back. In the early evening, when the sky was still bright, but the edges of the day had begun to blur, Ellen liked to walk the orchard slowly. She moved without hurry, hands deep in the pockets of her faded coat, boots whispering against the grass. Birds sang their evening songs from the hedges, and somewhere beyond the fields, a stream promised its quiet, steady music. On this evening, the one the valley would remember with particular fondness, Ellen stepped out of her farmhouse just as the sun was sinking toward the western hills. Light pooled along the horizon like warm honey, spilling through the gaps in the clouds and painting the orchard in gold. Every leaf held a soft edge of light, and every fruit that hung from the branches blushed with a deeper, richer color. Ellen paused at the gate, the old wooden latch familiar beneath her palm. She closed her eyes for a moment and breathed in the smell of the orchard, earth and leaves, fruit and bark, a hint of wild mint and the faint sweetness of clover. There was a trace of wood smoke in the distance from a neighbor's chimney, and beneath it all the clean, quiet smell of evening. With that breath, something in her chest loosened, as if the valley itself had sighed. She stepped inside and closed the gate behind her with a soft click. The orchard greeted her with its usual silence, but it was not an empty silence. It was full of small, gentle things, the whisper of the grass leaning against her boots, the tiny creak of branches shifting their weight, the far-off chattering of a blackbird settling in for the night. The world seemed to be speaking very softly, and Ellen listened. She moved down the first row, trailing her fingers lightly along the rough bark of each trunk as she passed. The trees had been her companions for years, growing slowly under her care. She knew them each by shape and by the way they leaned or twisted toward the light. There was the stout little apple tree that always ripened earlier than the rest. There was the tall pear that bent just enough to shelter the smaller sapling beside it. There was the old apple with the hollow in its trunk, where a family of wrens sometimes nested. As she walked, Ellen murmured to them, quiet words no one else could quite catch. They were not exactly conversations, but small exchanges of recognition. A hand on a branch, a gentle word, a feeling of gratitude that moved through her like sap rising. The orchard did not answer with words, yet there was a sense of presence, of listening, that wrapped around her like a shawl. The sun eased itself behind the hills, and the sky began to darken at the edges, shading from blue to dusky purple. One by one, stars appeared, shy at first, and then more confident, scattering themselves across the sky. A faint breeze drifted through the valley, stirring the leaves, so that the orchard seemed to shiver with quiet pleasure. Ellen reached the end of the row and turned up the next, moving a little more slowly now. She paused here and there to cup a ripening apple in her palm, feeling the cool, firm weight of it. She did not pick any tonight. This was not a night for baskets and ladders and the small bustle of harvest. This was a night for listening. Beyond the back of the orchard, where the ground rose in a gentle mound, stood a single old tree. It was taller than the others and older by many years. Its trunk was thick and weathered, its branches reaching high and wide like arms stretching to embrace the whole valley. No one could say exactly who had planted it or when. It had simply been there, steady and patient as the seasons turned and the world changed around it. Ellen made her way toward this old tree, her steps naturally slowing the closer she came. At its base, the grass grew fine and soft, and moss covered some of the exposed roots like velvet. She sat down there, leaning her back against the trunk, as she had done on many evenings before. The bark was familiar against her shoulders, solid and cool. Above her, the leaves rustled gently as if acknowledging her presence. From this spot, she could see the whole orchard stretching away in gentle lines, the trees like watchful figures cloaked in their leaves. Farther off, the farmhouse windows glowed with the faint amber light of a single lamp. Beyond the farm, the valley rolled away into the dusk, fields turning silver in the rising moonlight, hedges dark and soft, the distant shimmer of the stream as it caught the sky. The day's work was behind her, the tools cleaned and put away, the animals fed and settled, the tasks crossed off in the quiet ledger of her mind. Out here, there was nothing to plan, nothing to solve, only the slow breathing of the orchard and the cool touch of night. Tonight, something about the valley felt especially soft, as if the whole world had exhaled at once and then lingered in that peaceful pause. The moon rose above the hills, round and pale, casting a tender silver light over the orchard. Shadows stretched and softened, becoming gentle pools beneath the trees. The air cooled, and the first threads of mist began to gather in the low places, curling along the ground like quiet thoughts. A barn owl drifted through the air, wings so silent that it seemed more like a thought than a creature, gliding past the edge of the orchard on some secret errand. Crickets tuned their tiny instruments in the grass, beginning a slow, steady chorus. Somewhere nearby, a fox barked once, a brief sound that faded quickly into the distance. Ellen's breathing matched the rhythm of the night, slow and easy. She felt herself growing heavier, not with weariness, but with a certain kind of peace, as if she were settling into the same steady stillness that held the trees. Her eyelids drooped, then lifted again. The orchard swayed gently in her gaze, leaves whispering stories she did not need to understand to feel comforted by them. As she sat there, half dreaming, she became aware of a different kind of sound. It was so faint at first that she could have missed it entirely. A quiet hum, like a distant lullaby without words. It seemed to rise from the ground, from the roots and the soil, from the spaces between the trees. It was the sound, perhaps, of everything in the orchard growing in slow motion, a collective sigh of contentment. She did not try to listen too hard. Instead, She simply allowed it to wash over her, the way a gentle wave washes over the shore. In her mind, she pictured the roots beneath her, spreading through the earth like a hidden map, touching and intertwining in secret. The trees were alone, and not alone at all. Connected by threads she could not see, but could almost sense. After a time, Ellen opened her eyes and looked up through the branches above her. The sky framed between the leaves had grown darker, the stars brighter. A faint trickle of moonlight slipped through the canopy, laying soft patterns on the ground, patches of silver, pools of shadow, the delicate outline of leaves. Gradually, the night settled more fully. A pale ribbon of mist climbed the gentle rise where Ellen sat, wrapping itself lightly around the old tree's roots. It had no chill in it, only softness, like a shawl of cool silk laid over the orchard. The air grew stiller, as if the valley were listening. Ellen remained where she was, feeling the steady strength of the trunk behind her and the soft give of the earth below. The small worries that had visited her earlier in the day faded like ink left in the rain. What remained was simple: the feel of bark against her shoulder, the smell of leaves and soil, the gentle sound of crickets. The old tree at her back seemed to deepen in its stillness. Its roots curled through the earth, holding firm while the world turned silently overhead. Ellen's body, supported by trunk and soil, began to relax more completely, as if she were sinking gently into the ground itself. Her shoulders loosened, her hands resting open on her lap, fingers soft. Her breathing continued in a slow, even rhythm, like the tide of a very quiet sea. Far above, a thin cloud passed lazily across the face of the moon, dimming its light for a short, tender moment. The orchard embraced the dimness, the shadows growing a little deeper, the world a little more hidden. Then the cloud moved on, and the soft, silver glow returned, as patient as ever. Ellen allowed her eyes to close fully now. She no longer felt the need to watch the orchard. It would continue to breathe and grow with or without her gaze. It had done so before she was born and would go on long after. Tonight, she was simply one more quiet presence, resting beneath the branches, part of the valley's slow, steady heart. The owl flew overhead again, a pale shape against the sky, and settled silently on a branch of one of the nearer trees. It tilted its head, listening, then fluffed its feathers, became as still as the trunk it perched upon. Together, bird and tree kept company in the hush, each holding its own kind of watch. The cricket's song blurred into a single soft thread of sound, weaving through the orchard like a lullaby. Somewhere at the edge of hearing, the stream kept up its murmur, water slipping over stone, moving unhurriedly toward a destination it never needed to see. The world was full of small, continuous movements, too gentle to disturb the quiet. In her half-sleep beneath the old tree, Ellen felt as though she were floating, not up into the sky, but deeper into the earth, into the cool, dark spaces where roots spread and water pooled. She imagined herself as a kernel of a seed, tucked safely into soil, held and cradled by the orchard. Above her, the world might change many times, but down here there was only rest and the slow, patient promise of growth. The night turned slowly overhead, stars wheeling in their ancient paths. The valley slumbered, fields and hedges wrapped in mist, roofs silvered by moonlight. Somewhere far away a dog barked once and then went still, as if even its dreams had softened. Near dawn, when the sky had only just begun to pale in the east and the stars were loosening their hold on the darkness, Ellen stirred. She did not wake fully, not yet. Her body shifted lightly, her head tipping to one side, a stray lock of hair falling across her face. She sighed, a slow, deep breath that seemed to answer the orchard's own quiet exhale. For a lingering moment, she hovered in that tender space between dreaming and waking, where the edges of the world are soft and forgiving. In that space, it seemed to her that the old tree behind her spoke without words, sending a feeling through the bark and into her back, a feeling of reassurance, of steady companionship. It was as if it were saying, "Rest, everything is all right, the valley is watching over you." The pale light of the coming morning seeped gradually into the orchard, turning the sky from deep indigo to gentle blue, then to the faintest suggestion of rose along the horizon. The mist began to thin, lifting away from the ground in delicate strands. The crickets quieted. A bird cleared its throat in a nearby hedge, then offered the first tentative notes of the day. Ellen's eyes fluttered, then opened halfway. She felt the coolness of the bark at her back, the softness of the moss beneath her. For a moment, she did not move. She let her gaze rest on the nearest branch, where a single droplet of dew hung at the tip of a leaf, trembling with the tiniest movement of air. The world seemed to be holding its breath, just for her. She knew that soon she would rise, brush the moss from her coat, and walk slowly back through the orchard toward the farmhouse. The day would begin in its familiar way, with warm tea and quiet tasks, with feeding and tending, with lists and small satisfactions. The orchard would shift gently from its dreaming to its waking, leaves lifting to catch the growing light. But for now, in these last precious moments of the night's embrace, she remained still. Her mind was clear and quiet, like a calm pond. Thoughts that might have stirred settled before they could take shape. All that remained was a simple, deep contentment, as if she and the orchard shared the same slow heartbeat. The sun slipped a little higher, sending its first thin rays over the curve of the hills. They reached the tops of the trees, painting their leaves with a soft sheen of gold. Little by little, the light filtered down through the branches, touching Ellen's face, warming the bark at her back, glinting in the dew that beaded the grass. Ellen drew one more long, quiet breath and released it. She felt rested in a way that had nothing to do with hours of sleep and everything to do with being held by the orchard's calm. She rose gently to her feet, hand resting for a moment on the old tree's trunk in a wordless thank you. Then she turned toward the rows of trees and began her slow walk back, each step measured, unhurried, respectful of the morning still lingering in the air. The orchard watched her go, as it watched everything, silent and patient. It would welcome her again at evening, and the next evening, and the next, through the turn of seasons and the passage of years. It would hold her worries when they grew heavy and share its quiet when she needed rest. This was the way of things in the valley, where the hills held the sky, and the trees held their dreams, and the farmer carried a little of that stillness inside her wherever she went. In time, Ellen reached the gate and stepped through, closing it gently behind her. The latch fell into place with its familiar soft sound. She looked once more at the trees, their leaves now stirring lightly in the growing light, and then turned towards the house. The promise of warm tea and a new day waiting for her. Back in the orchard, the old tree stood watch over the rows, its roots deep in the soil, its branches open to the sky. The dreams of the night slipped softly away into the earth, becoming part of the quiet strength that would carry the trees through another day of sun and wind, of birds and bees, of shade and sweetness. As you picture the sleepy farmer's orchard now, its trees bathed in gentle morning light, you may feel some of that calm within your own body. Your breath can be slow and easy like the farmer's. Your thoughts can drift like mist across the grass, soft and unhurried. The worries of your day, like leaves that have fallen, can simply lie where they are, no longer needing your attention. Some part of you can imagine leaning back against that old, wise tree, feeling the steady strength of its trunk, the deep patience of its roots. The earth supports you just as it supports the orchard. The sky arches overhead, spacious and kind. You are safe here in this imagined valley, where time moves gently and nothing is asked of you except to rest. If sleep has not already begun to fold itself around you, it may arrive now, as quietly as the owl gliding over the trees, as softly as the first light of dawn touching the leaves. You do not need to seek it or coax it. You only need to allow it the way the orchard allows night to come and morning to follow. Without resistance, let your body sink a little deeper into whatever is holding you. Let your jaw loosen, your shoulders soften, your hands grow heavy and still. Breathe in as if you are filling your chest with the cool, clean air of the valley. Breathe out as if you are letting go of everything you no longer need to carry. The orchard will go on dreaming, season after season, night after night. And you too can dream now. The trees will stand watch in your imagination, their leaves whispering gentle lullabies, their roots holding steady far below. You are cradled between the hills, beneath the open, star-swept sky. wrapped in the tender hush of the sleepy farmer's orchard. Good night, dear traveler. Sleep well.